True. How do you stop people fabricating evidence? Officers, the judiciary. Because if they can do it under the adversarial system, they may be able to do it and should be able to do it. And I can't see why they aren't able to do it under the inquisitorial system. Because the system has just changed. But the evidence still can be open to be corrupted. Well, we get over that hurdle, Mr. Left Wing, simply by this. Following Nebuchadnezzar as an example. Oh, what do you mean, Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, Babylon. Right, okay, Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. He was a pig in even. Okay. He worshipped all the stars in pig in heaven. He worshipped this and worshipped that and worshipped his pig in toenails, no doubt. But the thing about it is when he was forced by the corrupt officials bringing in corrupt charges and creating evidence against Daniel, Daniel was thrown in the lion's den. Now that is a good example, okay, even if we do not believe in the scriptures, or we're not Christian, or we want nothing to do with the scriptures, we're simply putting forth the example of history of one man as an example of just how justice should work. Nebuchadnezzar was forced to put Daniel into the lion's den. Okay? Now then, the thing about it was that Daniel came out alive. And the king concluded, his God must have been on his side. And, what is more, coming out alive, he must have been innocent. He turned to those who had accused Daniel of crimes he had not committed. And they had to admit on their own faces that they'd done that. And you know what the king did? He got hold of his accusers, even of his family at that time, because they were just as bad. And he threw them into the lion's den. They wouldn't go around accusing any more people of anything. They're finished with. You see, what they purposed against Daniel to have Daniel's life taken, their life was taken. Now, if we take the same principle, and the government was to say, which it never would, because it's as criminal as the big devil himself, if it were to say, right, okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if anyone is caught fabricating evidence against another which leads to or causes a person to have their life taken, your life will be taken immediately. You will be taken out, having been brought before a judge, having the papers read out to you, and you'll be taken out into the yard and you will be hung. Do you know that would straighten every bugger's mind? Can you imagine an officer? Can you imagine an officer? Oh, we're going to stitch him up. Oh, boy, okay. They wouldn't even mention that term. They wouldn't even think about stitching any bugger up because their life is on the line. If they get picking caught out, that's it. They've gone. They've lost their life. And everything that pertains to their life, their wife, their children. If they have a wife, it'll be the wife, their children, if they've got children. Their basic life itself. They won't be in this world anymore. Nobody is going to fabricate any evidence. And they're all going to concentrate on gathering evidence. And that's the way it should be. You see, the left is of no answer to these things. They can go on around the rugged rock like the rugged foxes they are, the rascals. We would have justice in the countries where an inquisitorial system was attached to punitive judgment of any persons that actually put together false evidence. Not talking about mistakes, but where deliberate evidence, which it can be ascertained, the deliberate evidence. Constructive knowledge, as they call it, has been put together. Because at the end of the day, the court demands evidence, not waffle, not rhetoric, not words, evidence. You show me the evidence. You say Joe Bloggs broke into that house. You show me the evidence that he broke in. Well, you got fingerprints. Yeah, well, okay, that's one piece of evidence if it can be backed up by any other. Because you could have planted the fingerprints. So you're going to have to do better than that. You're going to have to build up your evidence. Okay? So as to form a case against my client. And so it is. And so the difference would be with inquisitorial, no two sides arguing as they do now. It'll be a different argument. Because two sides will say, well, what about this, Bert? What about that, Bert? Well, what about this, Timothy? Yeah, right, okay. Right, we've got this and we've got that. Yeah, right, I think, do you agree or not? Can you give me an argument against it that this man here is not guilty? No, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not guilty. There's not enough evidence. And that'd be that. Or there's enough evidence here, we'll bring it to the court, the judge, and get him to have a look at it. And then we'll argue backwards and forwards before the judge of points, not to defend the person, but simply upon the evidence, the points, and then the person themselves get the result of it. Okay? But believe me, the system, this big and evil system would change. It would change for the better. But governments don't want that. All they want is chatter, chatter, chatter. And it's a nice game, which begins rather in the likes of Oxford and Eton and Cambridge, where they have the debating societies. And those debating societies come into Parliament, and we call it a system of pugilistic, two fighters, pugilism. One side stands up, attacks the other side gets up and attacks the other. But unfortunately, because of the corruption of our Parliament, it now comes across as simply not men versus men, but children versus children in a playground, catcalling, whistling, moaning, ha ha, here here, ho ho, and all this business. That is not the way it should be. That is childishness. Which means that we have no men in government, only children. Children in understanding. No mature statesman. You name a statesman in the British Parliament if you can. Show me one of them. There isn't. We've got a sack of puss for prime ministers. Not sacks of puss. That's all we have. And they're as hard as steel itself, as hard as forged steel, set in their ways like concrete. Blind beggars, blind leading a blind country. The blind leading the blind, and every bugger falls into the ditch. So, when we come to capital punishment, we have a system that we will not employ that will rid us of all false convictions, because the convictions must be 100%. 100%, even in the evidence. None of this, without doubt, but absolute certainty. Yes, officer, I see it is on CCTV clearly that Joe Bloggs here put a gun to that man's head and shot him. There's no debate. Myra Hindley, no debate. Ian Brady, no debate. Peter Sutcliffe, no debate. Bundy, no debate. And so on and so on. There would be no debate. Because the evidence is there, and one party has to destroy the other to try and get a guilty person off. But if they all join together under an inquisitorial system, the cost would be less, the verdict sooner, everything dealt with. I don't agree with these idiots, and they are idiots, that say under our present system, because they can only see this present system, it doesn't matter if persons are innocently hung, at least they will get some good, I would say, some people who are absolutely guilty. So the few that are hung, even though they're innocent, are outweighed by the ones that are guilty. That's until the pigging goes around their pigging, then they'll change the pigging mind. That's not the way of right, that's the way of wrong. Okay. And what is more, and finally, justice demands a life for life. There are thousands of people that have had injustice done to them. They've seen their daughter die at the hands of a murderer. The murderer's got 5-6 years, maybe even got life. Whatever life is these days. Depends on what the judge thinks. The parents go away and feel wronged. Naturally, because natural justice says that bugger should hang. Secondly, and I said this some time ago to a woman who was against capital punishment. I'd outlined to her, this is some years ago now, I'd outlined to her that the various points, and she couldn't answer, she couldn't come back. She was a bit stuck. But I said to this in the end, the pivotal point in the end, as it were, apart from everything else, is the fact that if you had life sentence for a person, okay, that meant life. So a person who goes into prison has to spend maybe 30-40 years in prison till the coffin arrives at his door and the reaper knocks on and takes him out. That is cruel. That is cruel within a society that is supposed to be not so cruel. Isn't it cruel? What do you mean, is it cruel? Well, look at it. Look at it. Use your picking eyes of the understanding. Look at it. You've got a person there, a human being, in a concrete building for say 30-40 years, maybe even 20 years. How cruel is that? Locked behind a pigging door. He's got his TV and he's got his recreational, but he's still in a pigging prison. A stone concrete building. He can't move out. He's like a rat trapped. That's why they give them medication. They stick them on the top of the top balcony of the prison, as they do the 48s down below. Okay, the nonces, as they call them. You know, those wicked people who attack children. Now, those up on the top, the lifers, as they're called, are medicated up to the eyeballs because they cannot stand the fact that they are in a prison cell, in a prison, a concrete place of metal and concrete for the rest of their natural lives in many, many cases. Okay, we're talking about lifers. We're not talking about those who get 5 pigging years or 2 years for knocking a child down and killing them because they got off with manslaughter. What the bugger is that? That's murder. It's pigging murder. Not manslaughter. That was no pigging accident. The man's going down the road at 50, 60 pigging mile an hour and it's a full 10 mile an hour road and there's children playing in it and he mows them down and kills one. That's murder. If he's going down the pigging road and a child comes out and he's doing 10 mile an hour, a child comes out of a pigging cutting and the man brakes, but he doesn't quite brake hard enough and it hits the child and the child dies, that's manslaughter. There's nothing he can do about it. But he can certainly do something about going down a pigging road at 30, 40 mile an hour with the kids. Like the pigging drunkard in the pigging car and he's waving all down the pigging motorway. And he goes and pigging kills some bugger. Oh, it's manslaughter. No, it's fucking... It almost got me swearing. It's not. Because that man is deliberate, or that woman is deliberately alcoholed themselves up to the pigging eyeballs. And the consequences of his actions, he should be guilty of. The consequences of his actions. Not the frigging car, not the circumstances. His actions or her actions, to be high as a pigging kite on alcohol and kill some bugger. They're guilty of murder. They're as good as stab the bugger. Poor sod in the road. I get all emotional with this because I mean, we're living in an age where excuses for excuses' sake are coming up, and they've refashioned the minds of the majority of people to give excuses, and manslaughter is an excuse for the willful behaviour of wicked people who go up and down frigging roads. And I've had a go at it. I've had a go at these buggers, telling them off. What the hell are you doing coming up this pigging road like this? There's kids in this pigging road. What are you doing, man? I said, I'm talking to you, mate. You stop it. You pigging, slow down. You murder a pigging child. Then what are you going to do? What's your girlfriend going to do? Well, pigging, take it. But no, it is cruel. And this woman had to... I'll be... How would you say the word fair? Fair? I admire the woman. That's the word. I actually admire the woman. Because she stuck her hand up and said, yeah, you wouldn't have a dog. The RSPCA would have you pigging arrested if you put a dog in those circumstances. And you wouldn't do it to a pigging dog, but you're willing to do it to a human being, to be pigging cruel to a human being. You've locked Myra Hindley up how many pigging years till she went in the coffin? And the rest. Ian Brady just popped his clogs. That's absolutely wickedness of locking these people up for their own natural life. As we say, you wouldn't do it to a dog. That would be cruel. But human beings are better than dogs, even though the crime of murder makes them inhuman. You wouldn't trust somebody who's committed murder, willful murder, because they've passed the mark. There's no point of return with them. Well, let's go. Because I think Chloe's... What time is it? Oh, she should be in bed. Anyhow, where's Molly? Slumped out. Well, bye-bye.